Good. I'm actually just setting ourselves live immediately.
No problem, no problem.
So we'll
All is
do it
well?
up to. You said you have up to. We can do 30 minutes. It's fine.
No
All is
problem.
fine.
So far, so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I had there's some Kenyans who are in town,
Okay.
so I pretty much spend my day with them from
Or
about. Uh,
some sort of meet and greet.
yeah, there's a good friend of mine who was in town, so took them to some places of interest. We had lunch. Had
Wonderful, wonderful,
And,
wonderful.
yeah, and then now I've just left there to
To come do
come do
what you need to do.
come do the live.
Hmm.
Yeah. So how's your week been?
Yeah, usual stuff. Nothing outstanding. Only that at the river is very dusty nowadays. I think due to not lack of rainfall or something. It's quite dusty. But I think also the fact that
It's
we live
dusty.
next to cement factories, these guys are not applying those dust control practices because in manufacturing, if your factory has dust, there are dust control measures that has to be taken.
Mm,
Electrostatic devices and also spraying. There's something called it's called a fog cannon.
mhm.
Is something that sprays a very thin spray of water. It's called a fog cannon that assists in settling of dust particles. I've never seen such in Kenya. So if you are unfortunate enough to live near a cement factory,
Mm.
you are in trouble. So it's an issue of standards also.
Yeah, I mean, partly is, and I guess we'll just dive into it. Is how our cities and towns have been planned. So it's very poor.
Mm,
Having residential houses or residential zones so close to some industrial spot
mm.
is not so good. I mean, yes, they
It
should
can be
probably
it can be
provide for a
closed.
way to contain.
It
There
can be
probably
closed,
could be
but
a way.
yeah, there
Yeah.
should be. Yeah, okay. Dust. Use of the fog cannon and
Mm,
electrostatic devices. But
mm.
then again, if you're to raise such an issue, they'll tell you, "Oh, cost, cost, cost." And I know by then somebody in charge of environment has already received his share of the loot. So as an individual, you'll be fighting a losing war. And after all,
Yeah,
the people who own these factories live very far away. So it's between you and
they
you and
don't care.
whatever.
They don't care
Ah,
about the people nearby. So
It's
they'll
it's basically we generally hate ourselves. I
yeah,
saw a
that's it.
documentary where a rail was being built in Germany for a train. Now, what happened is this: they said that it is important that this rail to pass through this area. Now, that area has some residential houses. They actually built a soundproof or a sound absorbing barrier next to the rail. Between the houses and the rail, they put a sound absorbing barrier. Now it's an issue of attitude.
Yeah, I mean, just think about how they consider their own people. And
Hmm,
now for them to consider making that investment of
hmm,
soundproofing that whole construction, because, I know, and particularly if you go to most of these Western countries, they are very sensitive about noise.
hmm.
If you're in a neighborhood and you probably start blaring music, they will likely call the cops on you.
Yes.
And
No,
it's this level of standard of living. I mean, we can go down the pipeline. What's the other thing that I've noticed? I think I shared with you or with some other friends of mine. The recent time I was in Nairobi, I took a walk around the Kilimani area, and there are quite a number of high rises that have come up in and around that area. And as I was walking just down along those streets and looking at those new high rises that are there, is to see how poor our workmanship is, because I could see cracks, I could see water damage, and these are houses that are roughly not they're not more than 10 years old. I mean, the build quality of most of our housing, the build quality of most of our construction is so low. The standards are so low. There's no enforcement. We've corrupted our entire systems that all you need to do is give someone a kitu kidogo, some chai, and boom, they will close their eyes. I mean, that's why we are seeing a lot of uh, houses collapsing. I mean, do we hate ourselves this much that we don't want to live in good quality housing? I mean, a
Yeah,
house should, it's not a question of any razzmatazz or bells and whistles put into that house. It's just a well built,
a house
uh,
that won't collapse on you.
a house that won't collapse on you, and
You
that
just take
looks, and it should also look good,
yes.
both on the inside and outside. And none of that should mean money. It's just a question of enforcing standards.
Yeah.
But this culture that we've developed, that we want to take shortcuts, save a little money here, maybe use little cement right there, maybe use a low standard thing right there, comes and bite us. Because I would imagine the house collapsing is a bigger loss to the owner of that house than taking those shortcuts.
Well, you see, when you are dealing with the Kenyans, uh, when you talk about long-term savings, you are practically, it's like you are teaching uh, integration to an octopus.
Mhm.
Our concern is today. Today, nobody will say 5 years down the line, line, or maybe your break-even period would be less. No, 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 no. This one is cheaper by 1 million shillings. I'll take it. But they'll tell you, no, listen, if you say, listen, this one is more expensive, but by the time you break even, your operating system is still robust. But somebody would rather buy something will fail in cheaper by 1 million, but it will start failing within a year. Then he'll buy another one and another one and another one. So probably you are dealing with an individual who's thinking like a procurement specialist. Cheapest one with the best kickback. And for most of the time in some of these setups, you may not actually deal with the owner of a business. You will deal with the representative. And the representative
Mm.
has their own interests,
Oh,
and
yes.
and somehow they get the heads into the heads of the business owner. And when you appear there, they look at you with very bad eyes because they say this is the guy who sells us very expensive things. You try to talk sense, it is tossed out. So uh, this is a very difficult country to operate in if you are thinking long term. Very difficult. It's an extreme.
I mean, it's a sad affair that we have to be discussing some of these things. So this culture of taking shortcuts, this culture of a lack of ethics, as you say, sometimes the people who are in charge of that whole building effort are
Mm,
representatives of the owner. And we've had cases of Kenyans, particularly in the diaspora, who then, assign a relative to help them oversee a construction. It could be their retirement home, it could be a commercial building that they're building for either for for commercial tenancy, or even a residential flats or apartments. And because this relative, be it a cousin, a brother, sometimes they're as close as a blood brother or sister, decides, I'm gonna cut corners. I want to. If he's given me 1,000 shillings to buy 2 bags of cement, I will go buy 1 bag of cement and say that bag cost me 10,000 and pocket the rest. Uh, or they'll just be looking to. It's just that whole sense of integrity, ethics,
that's why
honesty.
you find you
We've
find
lost our values.
that's why somebody will tell you he doesn't do anything with relatives. In fact, there's a saying that says relatives are for burials only. Relatives are for funerals. There's even somebody in South Nyanza. I don't know how the situation is. These are guys with a very huge collection of trucks. Their former fleet manager was an Indian.
Mm.
Unfortunately, the guy passed on, but the former fleet manager was an Indian.
Mm-hmm.
He said there's no way he's going to entrust his Kanyas to a tribesman. That's a recipe for failure. Most they'll say, no, let's give to and I think to some extent the Europeans to some extent had that things because I know Rolls Royce in a Rolls Royce factory you cannot be in a department that is headed by your relative. That is Rolls Royce of UK. You better work in a but as long as there's a relative of yours heading that department, you are not going to work there. So if you are an engineer, you are applying for a job as an engineer, and it's your uncle, your cousin is heading that department, probability of you getting that job is zero.
Mm.
They are definitely not going to take you because they'll ask, "Do you have a relative in this company?
Mm-hmm.
What is their position?"
Mm-hmm.
But then they make it even deeper. If yes,
Mm-hmm.
is that person in the department that you're applying to? Yes. What position are they holding? If it's simply a member of the department, that is okay, you can consider. But heading the department and is your relative, zero probability. You're not going to work there. So I
Mm.
think those our brothers, the Caucasians, read through this issue for a very. I know it's only Indians who somehow get this thing correct.
Mm.
Indians they scored it pretty. Indians
And
we
I
have.
wonder
Mm,
what makes them excel. For them, it's a family affair through
yeah,
and through.
yeah,
Uh, and they seem to have. I don't know if it's a better accountability structure already baked in. They have already built in that culture. We see it also with the likes of Somalis. They
yeah,
do have quite a bit of this because they entrust one another,
yeah.
particularly the closer
Somalis
the
there's a problem.
relationship.
Somalis
Yeah.
there's a problem.
What do you mean?
Somalis have been scamming each other for quite a while now.
Really?
My former employers, the, the one faction of the directors took another faction to court. So Somalis,
I mean, but how prevalent is that? I mean, definitely, I think there are going to be some exceptions, but it seems like for
okay,
Somalis, and
whatever
you
they
can look
are,
at.
whatever extent it is,
Mhm.
we can't compare with them. As much as issues have been popping up in their issues concerning trust, they are still
Mm,
ahead of us.
exactly.
They are ahead of
So,
Somalis can gather 10 or 20 of them and
mm,
contribute money and start an enterprise. You gather 20 of you. If you're saying it is a beer drinking session, you'll get members. But let's say we want to brainstorm. Uh, let's say we are people earning good figures. We have 10 guys averaging 500,000 shillings per month. Say, let's get together out of my 500,000 and you are 10 of us. Let's contribute 200,000. Then let's look for a startup that is struggling, let's say Zero Bike, and invest in that and take it forward. Because if you have money, investing in a startup is easier than starting yours. I am witness of that. By the time
no,
the
I
Zero Bike,
agree.
so when you want such discussions, it is rare to have a quorum. But let's say there is a beer drinking session
Mm.
today at Cabanas, my friend, you'll be struggling to get a parking spot. And
I
chances
mean, I think we've got our things all upside
mixed up.
down because
Priorities mixed up. Hmm? And
uh, that level of
like,
mistrust, I don't know
mm,
what will cure it. That we have amongst ourselves enough to do this. The level of ethics that we don't desire to put the best for ourselves. And I think we only look at it if it's not going to directly benefit me. If I'm a minister running the Ministry of Road and Infrastructure and Public Works, probably I can put a tarmac going to my house, but the rest of you can go hang yourself. I don't have to care about the quality of the construction of that road. Will you get a tarmac? Will it be done well? Will it be well marked? Um, these are some of the things that I see Rwanda excelling in. Attention to detail.
I remember there was
Are
this.
you good?
There's this. You
I
can
can
hear me?
hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. So yes, you are lagging a bit, but now you are okay.
I'm now good, eh? I don't know
You
where I
can give a
lost
shout
you.
out. You
Yeah,
can give
shout
a
out
shout to our
to
friend here, Sharif
ah.
Mustafa. Our daily, our weekly. He never misses in our register.
I think this guy we should give him
What
an award.
the moment the millions start coming in, you should give him some bit of a share, complimentary
Yes,
share for
exactly.
being always with us.
A complimentary share. Yeah, man. Thanks a lot, Sharif, for joining us on this call. Sorry we were late on the call, but we are on now, and we are talking about the culture of shortcuts in Kenya and building of trust amongst ourselves, and have to do big things. I mean, one thing that I noticed, and you raised that issue of about raising capital. I mean, a lot of the startups that we have littered all across Africa, much of their funding is not internal. It's coming from external sources. And I don't think it's a question of a lack of resources. One, I feel that we haven't mobilized the local resources effectively, particularly talking of SACCOs. Because what are SACCOs doing? Yes, it's a good way for you to save. Yes, it's a good way for you to get some loans. Most of these loans typically are channeled towards building that residential or retirement home, as we call it. But how are they mobilizing funds and have to make investments in things that really move the needle? Be it investment in cottage factories, uh, or manufacturing entities, or businesses that, if you were to pump in a 5 million, a 10 million, a 100 million, could mean the world to them, and they could scale quite fast and easily. They could grow and even return that money several times over and employ other people. Why is it we haven't learned how to effectively um, pull in
Well,
money and
well,
channel it to real productive endeavors?
you normally say the same way they say shit flows from the top going downwards.
Shit flows
Also,
from the top going
going
downwards.
uh, the same applies to brilliance.
Mm,
Brilliance goes flows from the top going downwards. So
mm,
if you look at the top echelons of this republic, do you see any brilliance to copy?
no.
If you look at China, that guy Xi Jinping
Mm,
is a chemical engineer. His number two is a military scientist. The entire crop of the Chinese leadership are all technical people.
mm.
Yeah.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Look at now. Look at our what we call the top cream of the Kenyan society. A collection of entrepreneurs. It's
Yeah.
just there's nothing they're developing. Zero, zilch. So that when you try to start something new, they look at you with strange eyes. In fact, that is why somebody made a joke about when the first time some Kenyan lawyers went to try to do their to ply their craft in that those cases of the Hague.
Mm.
That there was a joke that someone went there starting to ask the judge how to make a file get lost. And they looked at him. Ambia, my friend, hiyo hakuna hiyo hapa. Hapa you ply your craft, you ply your
Yes.
trade. The issue, you don't even know where the judge stays. Eh? You do your work. Don't come here and tell us what judge tukutane jioni Hilton. In fact, there's a place called Sax and Violin, things in Karen. That is
Mm.
where deals are made concerning the judiciary.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
It's called sax and violin, if I'm not wrong.
Sounds like a nice jazz bar. I need to go
There's
there. I
a
haven't
jazz.
been.
I think there's a jazz band. It's owned by a sitting or a former magistrate.
Mm,
So it's actually a front for our learned guys to do their backroom deals and whatnot. So this is who we are. We have a lot of self-hatred. I remember I was seeing some guys in Zambia who are running a cottage industry, a small, the thing looks juakali. They are manufacturing diesel from from tires and other plastics. Now
mm.
imagine a place, a village like in Mukambani. You have such a plant. You make diesel from old tires. Then you
Mm,
don't bother with the putting up a gas station. You have a depot. Then all the matatus, wakina Kadhi and Wamasa and whatnot, that is where they take their fuel. Becomes a community thing. That all
exactly.
matatus flying the Ukambani route, that is where they get their fuel. And since it's cheaper, because the normal diesel, when you are buying this other type of diesel, number one, you are paying for extraction from the well. Two, you are paying for transportation of the crude
Crude
to
oil,
the
yes, before
center.
it's refined.
Yeah. Then you are paying for the refining process.
Mm,
Then you are paying for the process of transporting it from the refinery to your port.
mm,
Then you are paying for all those duties and whatnot. Then paying it for transporting it from the port, either through pipeline or by trucks to the consumers.
mm.
Then after, as if that is not enough, you add in the cartels inside. It becomes stupidly expensive. But if you
Mm,
are collecting old tires and you are doing some sort of catalytic cracking process when generating diesel, you circumvented so many things, and you make it communal. Now, in order to block out the cartels, that enterprise has to be in partnership with the Matatu circles in Ukambani. So it becomes like a complex. So all matatus of all circles in Ukambani take their diesel from there. So it is a close knit thing. And when you're like that, now getting financing for other things becomes better. But who wants to think like that?
and you bring up a good point, because that's the same thing. I think we were discussing this when we were talking about the creative arts and why it has not been thriving.
Mm,
And one of the reason I raised was because a lot of the stuff we create
mm.
is sort of for it to be consumed externally. If
Yeah.
it is development of our sportsmen, it's for them
Mm,
to participate at an international tournament, not so much for them to be active in local clubs, local leagues, local tournaments, and the like, and have it more targeted to the local people, have a local fan base. And it goes a bit. I like the way you've actually been able to break it down, that if we can extract diesel from plastics and tires, the idea should be to ensure that we've created an ecosystem locally that can consume that product. If we have a surplus that we can export, as well and good. But first and foremost, the key engine and that ensures the running of this machine is run by the local population, the local
exactly.
community, not external. And I'm even now thinking that's the very thing that we haven't also cracked with regards to our businesses.
It's like this. It's
Because
like you. It's like you build that station, that factory in Ukambani. Then you start putting petrol station all over. You are putting in Nairobi, Embakasi, Wapi. You are going to Nakuru. What are you going to do in Nakuru? We have matatus in Ukambani. We have trucks in
exactly.
Ukambani. Those sand harvesting people, they use diesel. You make an ecosystem. Because the advantage of I normally call it a complex. When you build it as a complex, external forces cannot. The only way an external force can come in is with becoming the aim of expansion. You are comfortable. You create your own. What's called the diesel fuel complex. All right. Like now for entertainment pub systems, if you have to call it an entertainment, we call it a Kenya Entertainment Complex. When we have comedians, stand-up comedians, we have actors, we have all manner of content creators. Then they have their own channel. When you switch to that channel, you only see Kenyan stuff. Even if it looks puny, there's room for improvement.
There's room
Streaming
for improvement.
services and all that. So
I
it is
mean,
that is 24/7. You know the way Mnet is, that DSTV. No,
mm,
something like that. This hour is, let's say, from 3 o'clock. Let's say from 7 to 9 o'clock. That is pure stand-up comedy, but clean comedy. Now from 10 o'clock, the kids are asleep. We have some very vulgar stand-up comedy. You sort of make it modular. You know that at this time this is what I expect. At this time this is what I expect. At this point here we have the Kibe's channel, which normally comes at 10. It connects to the Andrew Kibe show on the stream. Then there's a point where you can connect to the Andrew Kibe morning show, Rock Radio. You bring them together, it becomes a complex. For you to be part of it, it has to be Kenyan. We may, as we move forward, we may have a vetting committee to sort of vet the content. Does it have a certain minimum quality threshold? Because there's some really puny Kenyan stuff out there that's very low quality. It is vetted out so that each time you tune into that channel, it is Kenyan stuff. Now, what happens? Advertisers will start looking for it,
exactly.
because
It'll be automatic.
advertisers go where there are viewers.
Mm,
Now they know uh, there's a certain station. When you tune in, you'll be getting premium quality entertainment, whether it is movies, stand-up comedy, normal comedy, those skits and pranks, and what you can even have a prank channel. Yeah, entertainment is it goes the limit of entertainment is your mind. There's no machine or a system where you put something, then entertainment comes out. Entertainment is limitless. You think it, you do it. We
mm.
can have our own version of Jerry Springer. Weird stuff. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
entertainment. We can
yeah.
have it running from 12 midnight there. Stuff like that. Make it crazy.
I mean, is that authenticity and
Mm,
us first and foremost
mm,
serving that Kenyan community? I
yeah.
mean, and I think Andrew Kibe is actually even a good example. I mean, he
Mm,
hasn't changed how
mm.
he does his presentation of his show. He will speak in Swahili, he will speak in Sheng.
Yes, because
He
it's
will
an
not,
ecosystem. It's a one-man
ex-
ecosystem.
exactly, and he will not
Mm,
endeavor to translate for anyone. First and foremost, his
mm.
customers are Kenyans,
Yes.
Kenyans in Kenya and Kenyans all across
Mm.
the world, wherever they might be. But the message has become so much bigger that even those that don't understand the language are still tuning in and get to understand
Mm.
the the translations along the way. I mean, I guess some of it is tougher, but they know his message. They know what he's talking about. And despite it being a bit so Kenyan centric, it still hasn't lost the Kenyan base that it is geared to. But because of how authentic it is, it has been able to even pick up uh, a wider community outside of Kenya, outside of Kenyans. And that's the amazing thing. I think we need to go back to that level of authenticity. We need to go back to figuring out how we build self-enriching economies, self-enriching communities that we
That
are
is why
producing first and foremost for ourselves before we begin producing for the world.
I always keep on referring to the word ecosystem. For example, the Amazon forest. People travel all over the world to come and see, to tour the Amazon forest. Yes, they
Mhm.
want to see it in its nature. Have you seen a situation where Amazon forest is conforming to the visitors? It doesn't. It
No?
is what it is. It is you
Mm.
come and enjoy it and go.
Yes.
That is the beauty of an ecosystem. It remains firm.
Mhm.
But if you become like what we call a cosmopolitan, today a building has been brought up, another one has been brought down. Tomorrow you are uprooting some road. Tomorrow you are digging trenches here. Like the way Nairobi was looking uh, 60 years ago and now, it has changed. There's no ecosystem. It is something that is dynamic, but an ecosystem has an aspect of being steady like a rock. This is our identity. This is who you are going to be. Same way like Sony with their electronics ecosystem. I'm
Mm.
sure they have the money to build cars, but they say, hey, this is not our thing. It's not our thing. We can build electronics to fit in your car, but we're not going to build a car.
Mm.
I'm sure the main revenue account or the whatever financial system for Sony, they can build their own Teslas and whatnot. But to say, hey, we are working on an electronics ecosystem.
Mm.
If you want to talk to us about a cheaper way of building, what do you call chip boards, or what do I call them, circuit boards, that will talk. It is in a realm. But if you told us, oh, there's we need to branch into making vehicles and all, no, 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 no. Listen, the idea is noble, but it's not in our ecosystem. It's like you are trying to build a five-star story building in the middle of the Amazon jungle. I don't even the government won't even allow that. It's out of place. It's not in that system. If you have to build go to, I don't know, Rio de Janeiro or whatever, Sao Paulo, build your buildings there. This is the Amazon ecosystem.
Mm.
So we
So
have no
it's,
ecosystem. We don't have that ecosystem like that. What of just the Ukambani diesel fuel ecosystem? It's not there. If it is there,
and
cartels can't touch it because a cartel
yeah.
is concerned about uh, tinkering with the prices of fuel at the port or at the import. But you have ganged up with the Matatu owners. There's no point of entry. So we lack, in fact, even when you look at things like agriculture, there's a time I tweeted so that you know that the system is working against you. Not a single day someone has said, why don't we empower these farmers by giving them, telling them, number one, you have to bunch together to form a union, a unity or some organization. Then we'll give you funding for one, silos, and your own maize milling unit so that
Mhm.
you just be producing your own maize flour. Then maybe in order to maintain the business relevance of some system, you'll be selling maize flour in bulk to the current millers. So millers will just be splitting it into half kg, 1 kg. No one has thought about that. Why?
Mm.
That will be empowering people. The Kenyan system wants you to be weak because look at the amount of ugali that is eaten every day. Is it not strange that farmers are not even flying their own helicopters?
Mm.
Yeah. With the quantity of ugali eaten every day, each farmer should be having at least one helicopter minimum because your product is consumed every day. For every 10 houses, 9 houses are taking ugali. I can say
Mm.
without failure. How come the person producing that raw material is not a billionaire? The same way, the vehicles in Kenya, all over the world, are consuming petrol. Look how rich the Arabs are. They are not producing, if they are dealing with crude. Just look at this analogy. Arabs, crude, petrol, diesel, Arabs are rich. Farmers, maize being eaten all over the country, and the maize farmers are poor as fuck. The system is working against us. The system is simply working against us. Farmers should be the richest people, and it's very easy
That's
to make
true.
them rich. It's
They
easy to
should be
make
the
farmers.
richest.
Just tell them, listen, instead of you growing maize individually, bunch up together. We are going to give you silos. I was part of a project that was building silos in Mombasa.
Mm.
Current silos have methods for maintaining moisture content.
Mm.
The grain, we normally hear of aflatoxin due to problem
Yes.
with storage.
Yes.
But modern day silos, they have systems for maintaining moisture content in the grain.
Hmm.
Then from there, it is transported automatically into the milling unit. So if you say uh, for every 1,000 acres of maize, we need one. Uh, in fact, this thing I was writing to someone in Kitale. There's what we call a portable maize milling unit. It's on a flatbed truck. So I was talking to some people. It's so that you can have a packaging unit because that one was only milling. So you add a packaging unit so that for every 5,000 acres of maize, you have one portable packaging unit, and all these farmers, these units, have a communal silo so that nobody can play around with them. Automatically, riches will start to flow in. But now, when you do things like that, it makes the people not to be dependent on politicians. The hero worship complex will disappear.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm busy around because like that silo, it needs people to manage it. It's a computer control system with the moisture management, airflow, and whatnot. It's quite an
Oh
elaborate.
wow.
Yeah.
System,
Those are
huh?
those are
Storage.
modern day silos. If you go to a company called Bula, they'll tell you.
Mm.
No, it's called not Bula. I forget the name. It's one
You've
of
heard
these.
of Bula? Bula
Bula
must
is
be like the
Bula
major
is a maize mill.
miller in Kenya. Mm.
Bula is a maize miller. He
Oh
manufactures
yes.
maize milling equipment.
Okay.
Then there's a company, I forget its name. They make silos. So it's an automated system. You can know the quantity of moisture, temperature, and whatnot. It's filled with fans on top, so that you can control the airflow and what, so that the maize can be safe for quite a while. Those are the things. As long as you're not hearing people discussing that with the farmers, my friend, because now we are talking about bringing GMO.
Exactly. I don't know where the need for GMO is coming about.
What is
Uh,
what is hampering farmers is the
yes.
cartel. Remove the cartels. Okay, if you are really thinking of GMO, no problem. Let's see how the Kenya food production system works minus cartels.
Exactly.
And instead of going GMO, give these farmers capacity. Give them financing for those automated silos and drying systems and financing for flour mills. In
And
the event that they mismanage these systems,
mm,
also there's no excuse for mismanagement. You'll bring in experts to work with them in managing the systems. As long
I
as
mean,
okay,
there's a
yes.
recent story that even came out, I think it was this week,
Mm,
where the CS of Trade and Investment,
mm,
Mr. Moses Kuria,
mm,
had his eyes targeted at the edible oil producers, the likes of Bidco and
mm,
others.
mm,
Um, and apparently, many that brand themselves as local producers
mm,
apparently are importing these oils in bulk from places like Egypt and others, and then come and package, brand it as though that they have produced it locally here. Where are the farms? We want to see the farms. I know Bidco was putting out some huge farms in Uganda. Are those farms operational? Are we sourcing a lot of our the raw material from there? There are some in Kenya, and where are they? So I guess this is the thing, because when you're talking about GMOs, what the other question I would like to ask, as much as they are going to bring GMO seeds for farmers to plant and nurture, I think part of the push is for them to bring the surpluses of GMO ready made foods into the market
yeah,
of GMO maize. We know there's a lot of subsidies received from places like the US and other developed economies, where because they have a lot of surplus, and that surplus, where is it shipped? It's shipped in places like Africa. And that's when we are told, okay, these are donations you're getting from the likes of the US and others to help you relieve, get drought relief. So again, are we producing it locally? Are we getting imports from abroad? Uh, why is there a need of GMO? Have we fully exhausted the current, because GMO is promoted in the sense that it helps with high productive harvests, because you get what they term as high productive seeds planted with the new ways of proposed, which have got this artificial additives and fertilizers. But in essence, what we are getting is foods that are of low quality, as much as they are highly productive. This is not the high dense nutrient maize that you would get in the natural way it comes. So all these complications that we are seeing, why is there a call of GMO? Have we already exhausted ways we could improve our farming methods to ensure we can still be able to get an organic produce, but one that is productive? Probably not to the levels that GMO offers, but still very highly productive, to ensure we don't feed our populace poison.
We can actually produce quantities that can beat GMO in quantities, very
Mm,
in volumes. For example,
mm,
that's why I tell you, as long as we don't hear some things from the government or whoever's in
mm,
charge,
mm, mm,
uh, we are stuck.
mm,
There's this comedian here called this Somali lady Nasra something.
mm,
She made a tweet about in Wajir that there's drought and whatnot.
mm,
So I responded, okay, as much as people are collecting money, you have to solve things to finality.
mhm,
Number one, sand. Sand has a lot of nutrition, a lot. Problem is
mhm,
that it's so fine. If it rains, the water will simply seep through. So there's something called clay, nano clay technology. Is a
mhm,
liquid type of clay that when you pour it on the sand is normally having a negative charge. That liquid clay has a positive. So when you pour it, it clumps. So that if it, in the event that it rains, that water will be retained in the water for in the sand for a long time. You can actually plant crops there. Now, I knew of this technology recently. Years ago, I think I was in primary. Was doing such a thing, but they were using some sort of biodegradable petroleum product to do so. But now they're using nano clay. It's a liquid clay that has a positive charge. It will clump with the sand so that it increases the sand's water retention capacity. So when you have that, then you do irrigation. Places like Wajiri will even beat Kitale easily. And once you do that, you start growing forest. The purpose of a forest is to bring down the momentum of moisture laden wind. You are actually recovering a forest. So you make a decision. Are we going to reclaim our desert so that we have the entire Kenya Republic being fertile? Or are we going to engage in this weird system that we don't even know of? So that's why I refer to China. The people who are top in China, those are technical people. That's why China is doing cloud seeding. China is doing desert reclamation. China is doing so many things. China is even investing in cockroach farms because there's a certain substance that is found in cockroaches has some medicinal value.
I mean,
There's,
whatever nature gives us is of value. Nothing is here
because I was googling
by
out of
accident.
my where my mind was going while I was
Curiosity,
asking,
yes.
what is the use
Yeah.
of a cockroach? Some cockroaches have some medicinal value. And there's somebody in China has an entire warehouse. There is a cockroach farm. There's a certain serum that is
Uh,
gotten from cockroaches, and he's breeding them like nobody's business. But here we are. The leadership is. I can't even think of one leader that say I want to be like that one. That was comparing the Chinese leadership. As much as it is authoritarian, whatnot, the people heading, all of them are technical individuals. Starting from Xi Jinping, is
yeah,
the
I
lead
mean, I think
technology.
we definitely need to discuss about these governance models,
Mm,
and this so-called democracy
mm,
versus these benevolent dictators.
mm,
I do know one of the things around benevolent dictator is probably somebody might ask, where do you find a Kagame? Where do you find a what's this Singapore guy called?
Forget his
Lee
name.
Kuan Yew,
Mm.
Singapore founding father. Let me see. I think it's called Lee Kuan Yew founding fathers. Yeah, Lee Kuan Yew.
Mm-hmm.
These are visionaries. These are men that are driven by purpose, not for their own self aggrandizement,
Mm.
but for the benefit of the community that they serve. These are servants. These are leaders. These are strong men, that set forth an agenda and followed it through. Um, so I think we need to spend some time talking about some of these models. Somebody could ask, how do you nurture those people? Because today you could have a Kagame, we don't know what tomorrow will get.
Yeah.
If there is a way we can have a pipeline that we know will always generate this type of leaders that we could then entrust to lead and guide a country, I think that would be a solid that can ensure that the future of an nation is so secure. Because so very much a wild card as it is, it causes quite a bit of confusion. It has its benefits, it has also its disadvantages, and yeah, I think we need to discuss that at some point. But I think the point you've raised with regards to China and a lot of their leadership being people with a technical background, I think is a very nice idea that you've pointed out. Because look at even Kenya. I mean, most of these political leaders that we have, what's their background? I think many of them have more of a legal background than a technical background, a background based off building. They have not built any companies that we know of. They have just been, as you say, entrepreneurs. They are thieves in essence. Much of the wealth they have acquired, you can't quite point to where that source of wealth came from. And
Then
man,
we don't have, generally, you are not led by thinkers. Like recently, they announced there's a new cooking gas uh, dealer, I don't know, supplier from Tanzania called Taifa Gas. Is coming in recent, or I don't know. They are saying that the 6 kg will be going for, I don't know how much, 700 shillings or whatnot, which is okay. But then again, you can ask yourself, if I can do a bit of Googling, how many uh, cows in Kenya? Let me just do a quick run. How many cows in Kenya? Kenya has 3 million 300 and it has 3 million cows in Kenya.
mhm,
Now, one cow per day will produce 29 kilograms of dung. 1 kilogram of dung will give you 40 liters of biogas.
mhm.
1 kilogram, 40 liters. One
Wow,
cow, 30 kilograms. One cow is 30 kgs of dung. So
40 liters.
30 kg of dung from one cow per day times 4, that is 1,200 liters of biogas from one cow per day. We have 3 million cows. Can somebody sit and say, is it a way of bringing these farms together to tap into that biogas system?
Mm. Or
Those just
figure
the
out how do they collect it from the
uh,
farmers and
yes,
probably create collection spots all across the
yes,
country, which are
yes,
then brought
mm,
into, and they
mm.
could spread out the
Yes.
major, depending on where
Collection
they are
center.
situated. I
That
mean,
you just have
once you map this out, once you map this out,
a network of
yeah,
digesters, a national network of
exactly.
digesters per county. We know this county has this number of cows. Or with incentives, farms can join up. You can turn the farms into companies, link them up with incentives, plus an
Solutions
elaborate,
exist.
like a flushing system, a sewage system for cow dung. Will give you free whatever that cow feed at 50%, even what 30% subsidy if your cows are part of that program, because you are after the dung. 1 kilogram, 40 liters, 30 kilogram per day. That 30 times 40, that is 1,200 liters from one cow. Just a figure. We have 3 million cows. 100,000 cows only. What are we talking of? 100,000 times 1,200. That's like over a million liters of biogas.
Mm.
No shipping from abroad, because this LPG, whatever is doing, is being shipped from abroad, right? You are not doing any shipping, and you are making it from a byproduct. You are making from a waste product. So that we have an entire network of digesters, heavy duty industrial digesters, maybe for, we have 47 counties, the counties that have cows. We have like a network of heavy industry digesters. Then we link them into filling systems for the gas. Done deal. No importation, no nothing, no at all. Ukraine, the prices of the dollar is just within.
Yeah, I think there's a way our minds were oriented. One, to be outwardly looking and not
Mm, mm,
internally. And that's why we're even talking about we've not been able to develop ecosystems
mm,
where production and the entire whole
mm.
customer base is local and not external based. External based should only be geared to the surplus.
Yeah.
But if a local ecosystem is well built, the structures are in place,
Mm, mm.
you've incentivized the producers, creative ways, innovative ways of working. I mean, just looking at this, we're already brainstorming solutions,
Mm.
and the resources are with us. We just don't know how to manage them
Yes.
effectively to
And some
support
of
us.
the things
So
contributing to high prices of maize flour is the logistics of moving the grain from the farm. Why don't you say, you are making it a law? All uh, all maize milling facilities should be at a radius of 30 kilometers from the maize growing belt. Now, when you bring your factories there, we make it easy for you. We set up a rail system, a rail network that specifically serves the maize, the maize. It serves as a link between the maize growers and the mills, so that we have a train today. This train is going to this company. The train to this, like a schedule.
yeah,
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 you systemize it. Rather than you carry maize from Kitale to Mombasa maize millers. They do their milling, then it starts going back. Why don't you have these plants next to the farms, so that whatever comes out of Kitale is a finished product? And it's just a matter of setting up an incentive. We'll give you money to transport your factories to Kitale. We'll give you land there. Government can buy land and give it free. Then we'll make it easier for you. We'll set up a railway network. Rift Kenya Railways is there. All you have to do is pay a subscription for the rail system. And so these locomotives, whatnot, they'll be for this group of maize millers. The same way Magadi has its own. Magadi has its own locomotives. Yeah. So you can have a locomotive and a bunch of wagons specifically for the maize processing facilities. As long as your plant is within 30 kilometers radius in whatever direction, 30-kilometer radius or 50, even 100 is not bad to the nearest maize, whatever. Then we have what we call a concentric circle of a railway network. At any particular time, a train is supplying maize to a facility. No traffic jam, no nothing. Oh, Mvua, a bridge has been swept away. It's simple.
mm.
Hmm.
No, anyway, I think we've in the short time that we've been on, I think I've exceeded the time we actually were to make a
But
hard
it was a
stop.
very heavy, hard hitting discussion. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. We
Hmm.
started off looking at our puny culture of taking
Hmm.
shortcuts,
Hmm.
and some of our puny politicians with their short-sighted mindedness, and so I'm brainstorming brilliant solutions to some of the issues that plague us every so often. But and it, I think as we talk on a one-on-one, and I'm sure even at that level, these guys as they talk, they can see the
mm.
solutions, but who is ready to be disciplined enough to follow through and make this happen? I mean, I'm just, I don't know. Yeah, so it's just what it is, bro. It's
It
just
is
what
what
it
it
is.
is.
It is
Mm.
what it is. So I think with that, let's close it. Let's call it a night. Thanks once again. I think we've done it despite the earlier issues that we had. Uh, and yeah,
The register has been ticked. We made it.
the register been ticked. Live stream
Mm.
number 9 is done, man. And thanks again, MVP Brian Ingudi Juma. A big shout out to all the people that came online. I see there's a gentleman called just KBT
KBT. Mm.
who's saying 100%. So he agrees with some of the things that we say, or rather with everything that we said. Thank you, with Sharif Mustafa and anyone else who came on. We appreciate your support and for joining us on this live. Please, as always, we are here every Saturday. Come rain, come shine. We'll be doing this thing, bro. And with that, we're signing
We are out.
out. Good night.